Hello and welcome to the Surgical Spirit podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Al-hakim, the Third Eye Doctor. Pull up a chair and get ready for some candid and uncompromising discussion with experts, innovators, agitators, and influential people from every corner of health and well-being. From inside the hospital to at home in the kitchen, we're leaving no stone unturned in our quest to uncover the secrets of healthier, happier, more successful, and less stressful lives. Thank you so much for joining us, and without further ado, let's meet this episode's guest. Hello, Anna. Thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm so excited to start, chatting and gossiping about all there is.
Yeah, well, I'm a sucker for gossiping, but, with time, I've realized that, it's fun. It's definitely fun. It was really bad. We at work, we had this, interesting manager, married, with a boy, and then he started sort of, I don't know what was happening, with an administrator, and then they'd go out walking, and I saw them holding hands and sort of, getting quite affectionate with each other, and I did the really bad thing. I started gossiping. I went back to work and I said, look, guess what I saw? And then I sort of blurted it out, and it was great. I mean, it was fun, being there at work and everything, and, having this whole lovely drama.
Yeah,
But it
why
was
are we
quite
so
bad.
attracted to drama? It's so funny. Why
it
we
was
attract
really
ourselves
bad.
as-
It
I know.
it was really bad. And sort of, 2 weeks down the line, the administrator left. Our manager was clearly quite depressed, and I thought, shit,
Oh no, did you cause that?
I thought, do you know what? I shouldn't have said these things.
Oh no.
So yeah, it sort of brought home this kind of feeling that actually, we should be looking out for each other and not gossiping behind each other's backs. And
Actually, that's why before we started the recording, that's why I left my current job, was because
are you crazy?
No, it was because there was so much bullying in between the women. These women, the providers and the physicians, were just like at each other's throat and just trying to sabotage each other, and no one was managing any of this. And I mean, it got really rough. And so I was just like, it's too toxic. And I was just like, and it wasn't even toward me. I mean, a little bit toward me. They
Am I getting this
guts,
straight? You're talking about toxic femininity here.
Toxic femininity, yes. That's actually reason why. I mean, that's why I also built my business, Health is PowHer, because women really should be lifting each other up instead of tearing each other down. And what I found is, as a physician, academic physician in the academic field, that's all I've worked in so far, is academic medical centers. And it really seems, well, at least in my experience, women just try and rip each other apart so they can get ahead. So I don't know if it's some competitiveness or egotistical, behavior where the women just try and rip each other apart and tear each other down so that the other person can get ahead.
But I mean, isn't that a form of masculine toxicity? But
well, true.
perpetrated
Yes, that's
by
yeah.
Sort of
At the academic, I think the academic medical centers promote that. I think they really do. Wow. I think it breeds that type of personality, and so, and I always, I'm like trying to be friends, with everyone, just the naive, Anna, and I'm just like, yeah, everyone's wonderful, and then
here's my back, here's my back
behind their back,
behind
their back, they're like, oh, that Anna,
take my back, stab me, just keep
like,
stabbing me.
I'm like, whoa.
There's too many knives here. Thank you very much.
Oh, shoot. So, yeah, but I totally agree. It's like, let's lift each other up. Let's take care of one another's humanity. There's, too much chaos.
I mean, where do you think that, I mean, where do you think that sort of sprung out from, this sort of toxic competitive environment within the academic?
I think it
Yeah.
started in med school. I mean, I think it's really, I mean, we have to get ahead of one another. We have to prove that we can become great doctors. We have to impress our attendings. We have to, when we're on the wards and there's several of us, we got to stand out amongst the crowd and get good reviews so we can get into the residency of choice, into the fellowship of choice. So I think it really starts from the very beginning. It's really an oppressive, very oppressive environment in med school. They don't teach camaraderie or collaboration. I think they're trying to go that route, but they're teaching it in a classroom. So I don't know if it's really working out, that interprofessional collaboration education classes that they're doing right now. But yeah, I think it starts from the beginning.
And do you think there was a time when we did have this kind of collaborative sense in
Well,
medical
that's
school and in sort of in the medical profession per se?
maybe that's maybe that's history, because I don't know, maybe
Mm.
since we gave up our power as physicians to this system versus working for ourselves, I don't know what it was like back then. But I feel like now as physicians we're following these guidelines, these algorithms, and what the industry, the healthcare system wants us to do, instead of us critically thinking as a physician based on our knowledge, based on our experience, to take care of the patient and personalize it to them, versus follow this mass research guideline that may not work for everyone. So I wonder if like the thinking is now taken out of medicine, and so who knows.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, there is a toxic femininity side of things in terms of I mean, the masculine side of it is violence and aggression and physical altercations, whereas the femininity side is more about reputation dismantling and gossip and innuendo. And
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up with a very dominant mother and two sisters in between me, so to speak. So yeah, that's all we did really, sort of gossip and
You
re-
didn't have a
reputation
chance.
destruction.
Yeah, it's manipulation.
Yeah,
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 we use the power
manipulation
of
as
our
well. Yeah,
wits. That's how that's how we
and
get by. Um,
yeah, and
but
I mean,
yeah, that's go ahead.
no, I mean, I was going to say that sort of social media kind of celebrates this and sort of what's the word, raises the profile of these activities because it is drama and it is quite, to a certain extent, entertaining. Particularly when
It is.
you're not in the middle of it.
Yeah. Yeah, we are attracted to this drama. It's like, are we really that bored to be attracted to chaos and negativity? I don't know. Maybe our brains are wired for that too, the reptilian brain. Anything negative we like to focus on.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's self-preservation at the end of the day. We sort of look at these things so that we know how to deal with it or how to avoid it if these situations, um, you know, come to us directly. If it involves us and but yeah,
I What's interesting is I went and I didn't I didn't actually focus on that for the last, decade or so. It's kind of more recent when I realized it was a big problem, especially in the medical field. And maybe it is in private practice or in the community, but I find it is a lot in the academics. And I went to this women's retreat, and that was my first time going to this women's retreat. And it
why
was
did you
all
go?
about
Why did you go?
lifting
What
each
was?
other. I thought it was a business. I thought it was a business coaching retreat. It was all women. It was for women and to learn about, business and coaching. And it turned out it was all about loving one another and supporting one another and speaking, so highly of one another and giving each other compliments. And so it took me for a loop, but man, so tired. I hadn't had a day off in like 8 weeks before I went to this retreat. And I felt so good afterward at like just doing 2 days of just loving each other up. It was like, holy moly, this feels great. And I felt so inspired and so wonderful, so energized. I didn't feel tired anymore, even though I had traveled a whole bunch and was working, like a dog, just so exhausted. And I just came out of this like all like woo, glowing type of community. So yeah.
I mean, is it because, I mean, is being honored by another woman sort of a different feeling to being honored by, your partner or your husband or, your siblings? Is there a difference?
Yeah, it definitely feels different. It feels like a sisterhood. It's it's totally a different sort of love, and it's like, I think, I don't know, maybe that's what's missing in our lives, in women's lives, or maybe that's what's missing in my life, is that I really hadn't had that with a whole bunch of women. Maybe you have your close friends, but a group of women just really taking care of one another, versus like, are you afraid they're gonna gossip behind your back? Are you afraid they're gonna not take care of you, or be a bad friend? And there was no worries. It was just like a very strong sisterhood, where we were together in our faults, our mistakes, our regrets, our traumas, our emotional pain. And, we were going to get through it together. And that made the day. That's made the difference.
And
So
and
it was
did that
beautiful.
sort of change you sort of in terms of clinical practice when you went back into work?
Yes. Yes. I would say, well, the biggest thing that changed me was, what's weird is, before I went, I was having asthma attacks. Like, I felt this tightness right here in my chest out of nowhere. I mean, usually I just have asthma attacks to cats and horses. And so, but this time I was having asthma attacks to nothing. Like, I would just get an asthma attack out of nowhere, just randomly. And this was starting to occur, it started every month, then almost every week, then, every couple days. And that's so strange for me. And I knew it was something more spiritual or something more emotional. And before I went to this retreat, I always kept thinking like, something's like feeling like something's crumpling on my chest, like a glass orb, just like condensing in my chest. And when we were doing meditations together with the women at this retreat, it just shattered and opened up, and I didn't have an asthma attack after that at all. And it was so amazing. And so when I look at my patients now, which are mostly women, a lot of women and a lot of teenagers, female teenagers, and I just know, I just know they feel alone. I mean, it's so hard, trying to be yourself in a world that wants you to be validated by what other people think of you. And so it's so hard for these teens, especially, and young women, to, be their authentic self, be their true self, express who they are in this current society, because different is tough. Different is very tough. And I think that's what leads them to a lot of chronic pain and headaches, because then they start wondering, well, am I weird? Am I different? I shouldn't like myself because maybe other people wouldn't like me. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy enough of other people's love. And so I think that's where a lot of pain comes in, is that disconnect from who they are and not expressing who they are, and starting to not like who they are because of what society, what other people think of them, and always trying to get validation from others. So I think it's more emotional, spiritual, compared to a little bit of biologic, but yeah. And that's hard to work with as a physician in a clinical practice.
I mean, how do you introduce these concepts of spiritual sisterhood, in this clinical context?
Well, only it sometimes it depends on the patient, obviously, depending upon if they're open to it. And so taking cues from them to start talking more about spirituality. And oftentimes it comes out when I start doing my clinical hypnosis. Clinical hypnosis, is that right?
Yeah.
So it comes out more when I'm doing my clinical hypnosis for a lot of my patients in pain. And then I can start introducing those concepts because it's kind of like a segue into spirituality and learning about that person's spirit and their higher self, their authorizing where they've strayed from their path.
Could you
And so it is a little bit more difficult to do it in clinical. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, our internet is not great, so we're sort of
Yeah.
cutting up a bit, but I mean, how could you tell us how you sort of do this clinical hypnosis? I'm quite interested. And can you share sort of like a typical
Yeah.
process?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So it's not hypnotizing someone using the pendulum swing and making them cluck like a chicken. It's that is this is totally clinical hypnosis is using your creative visualization or imagination with a goal in mind. So one of the best ways to think about it, athletes right before their competition, they're like moving around right before their competition, closing their eyes, and they're visualizing their competition and making sure it's completely perfect, and then at the end they're winning the competition, and that's their goal. Prime, they set the intention that they're going to win that competition. They believe it with their very spiritual bones that they are going to win. Because clinical hypnosis is that with that visual intention, it actually manifests into reality. And so how you do it for chronic health conditions is basically the same way, using different techniques, in that you can sit, be relaxed, but you're using your imagination, finding what that headache pain looks like. It can look like a black sticky substance to them. It can look like red fire. And then they can pull it out of their body using some kind of magical force. If it's a child, and they can pull it out, put it into a little treasure box or into a container and chuck it across the universe. And then in our physical bodies, so that's the imagination, in our physical bodies, it's actually starting to decrease the pain. So that's how our brain, our nervous system responds. It's like, wow, we're actually getting rid of this head pain by just through that visualization and intention, and the headache pain starts decreasing, and it actually happens instantly.
And how successful is this in your experience?
Pretty successful. It's I I did not think it was going to work when I first got certified, and I was like, oh, no one's going to be using this. Everyone hates meditation, but it's such a easier form. Like, people who can't meditate should definitely do hypnosis because it's so much easier. It's so much more fun. And I started off in clinic, so face-to-face, in person, and I found it like totally stunk. Like, it didn't work in clinic, even though that's what my institute, the National Pediatric Hypnosis Training Institute, that's what they taught us, to do it in person. But everyone was so tense and stressed in the clinic and in the hospital that they couldn't relax. They couldn't like feel comfortable doing the clinical hypnosis. So then I started doing online. So telehealth or online or Zoom sessions, and it worked. It's because they were more comfortable. They were more comfortable doing it at home. They felt more relaxed. They were kind of in their element. And so it was a whole lot easier for them. So now I mostly do telehealth or online, clinical hypnosis.
And do you have a script, or is it quite intuitive for you, the whole process for you?
Intuitive. Yeah. I use more intuitive healing. I, as a physician, the reason why I started Health is PowHer is because the first year of medical school I got a whole bunch of, I was eating crap. I mean, just crap. And then like Frosted Flakes for, dinner. And so then I had all these immunizations that I didn't need because I guess, I don't know, Persian families, who knows? We don't get these certain viral illnesses, who knows? But anyway, and then I got mono. So it was like, bam, this like triple storm that just about killed me. And I developed a severe autoimmune disease where it left me like bedridden for 18 hours a day. So it tore up all my endocrine glands. And so conventional medicine could only get me so far. And so I went and sought, I went and got board certified in integrative medicine, looked at changing diet, nutritional supplements, IV vitamin C, acupuncture, all of that, therapy, psychoanalysis. And I got about 30 to 40% better. But it wasn't until I truly like broke down, had a mental breakdown, and just surrendered to God and was like, I need help. I cannot live like this. I want to heal. Please, I'll do anything. And the next day, this spiritual mentor that I heard about, he was a spiritual healer, intuitive healer, medical intuitive. And he was so busy, no one could get into him. And so it was so difficult. He had no openings. And then that next day after I prayed to God, he had a cancellation. So he opened up. And so I started working with him. And that's when we started connecting to my spirit and releasing what no longer served me, releasing all that emotional pain, cleaning up, my spiritual body, negative emotions, negative energy stuck in my body, past lives, ancestral trauma, all of that. And that's really what led me to do more intuitive healing, because that's really what got me 100% better. I think it was the spiritual, intuitive healing aspect. It's the spiritual foundations that really, truly helped me. So that's why I built, Health is Power, because it's a little bit more difficult to bring some of these concepts into clinical medicine. And I did try, but of course there were so many roadblocks. Insurance and the industry loves to, you can only do so much in medicine. It's not a complete medicine. It's not. It's great medicine. It's just not a complete medicine. And so that's why I bring these concepts into Health is PowHer as part of my, group coaching programs for women with chronic pain and autoimmune disease, and also doing intuitive healing sessions and then hypnotherapy. So that's where I try and help people who otherwise can't be helped with the conventional medical piece.
What did you say to God to sort of get that opening? What happened?
I honestly, it was like, I don't know what to do. I can't do this on my own. I need your help. And it was like a surrender. It was a total surrender to him. And I don't think I had done and God is stronger, and God is limitless. And that's what I just sort of stopped the control. I stopped trying to control everything and surrendered to his um, path, his kind of meaning and purpose for me. Like, it's basically all this pain turned into my true purpose, which I wasn't really following. And then I think when I finally surrendered, I got onto my true spiritual path. And that was what I'm doing now. Which I was so scared, I just kept fighting. I kept fighting God. I think I was like, no, I have to be this doctor. I have to achieve, I have to help patients in this way. And I think I was too scared to, build this business and work with people in a different way than what we were taught in medical school or residency. So that's how.
Yeah, and it's really difficult to surrender in that profession because it shows uncertainty, and we've been made to be certain 100% of the time.
Yeah, which we're not. Like, and that's the thing too about medicine is, holy moly, there's so much I don't know. I feel like I don't know anything as a doctor. I mean, there's so much research that I haven't read. I don't think we know everything, and so we have to be careful abdicating our power to all the doctors, because I just don't think we all know. I mean, we don't know everything.
For sure. I mean, I don't know anything. I mean, that's the
I
thing
don't
that
know
I've,
anything.
yeah, pretty much, the more I kind of listen, the more I realize, yep, I'm going backwards
Not
actually.
stupid.
Yeah, I'm getting
Oh
stupider.
man.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. But, I mean, most of the patients are quite relieved when you tell them, well, I don't know what's going on, but it's definitely not C, the C word, or the really
Yeah.
serious things, or whatever fears they have inside of them. I say, well, the fear that you have, it's I'm 99% it's not that, sure, it's not that. And most of them are pretty happy about that, or at least satisfied that you know they've seen someone else, and they've been given a different opinion about what it's not. But obviously there are some who get really, really angry and frustrated, and just not happy that you don't know what's
Oh
going
yeah,
on,
that we're
and
stupid.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But they end up seeing some obscure professor of an obscure condition, and they call it what it is. And look, I'm not knocking that. I'm sure that's what they have, and I'm certainly not a professor. I'm certainly not an academic for sure, because I find it very difficult to work within big institutions. I feel that I mean, it definitely drained me as an individual. I mean, I can understand being within the institution because it's quite, it's quite safe, and you're in this hierarchy, and you're probably quite at, quite well at the top of the hierarchy, and that's understandable because it does regulate your negative emotion. The higher up you are on the hierarchy, the less likely you are to have these negative meltdowns. um
Well, I don't know, because I was in the academic institution. I had plenty of negative meltdowns.
right. Yeah. So I mean it's quite interesting because you've sort of gone around full circle. I mean, you keep mentioning spirituality and God, and yet you were still within the kind of academic hierarchy. you know um how does that work? Because it's kind of two different poles in the same sphere, or in the same position.
Well, so what's interesting about working with pain and like chronic conditions is, I mean, it's kind of under the radar a little bit, where I can kind of introduce a lot of these integrative concepts for individuals, because nothing else works. And there's not, I mean, especially for pediatric pain, there's nothing, there's nothing, like 99.9% of things we do is off label. And so it's like, I can kind of do these things under the radar a little bit, and introduce like the emotional pain concepts and how emotions manifest in chronic pain if we internalize them and don't work through them. And so, but I can also kind of introduce that spirituality component because it's all about believing in yourself, and kind of like I did, walk on your own spiritual path, your own purpose. And so take, for example, one of my recent cases had a kid who had severe light sensitivity from migraine, like couldn't go outside, he had to wear dark goggles without any light coming in, had to put towels under the door in his room for any light from the hallway coming in. And we worked doing some intuitive healing and some hypnosis at the clinic. And it wasn't really until these clients and my patients and these individuals dealing with chronic health issues finally believe in themselves that they can truly heal and they can overcome this and it's going to be okay. And so I mean, I worked with this person for several sessions, and it would slowly get a little bit better. Like he could start going outside at earlier times when the sun was out, but just not quite, cured of his light sensitivity. And then all of a sudden, it was literally when we got through that emotional spiritual breakthrough of how there was so much anxiety of what would happen, that fear of what would happen if he went out into the light. And so it wasn't really until he came face to face with himself as that fear-based person that he finally overcame that. He finally believed, like, hey, I don't need this anymore. I don't need this fear. I don't need this fear to hold me back and to limit me anymore. I can finally become who I am. I don't need this light sensitivity to limit me anymore and become who I am and follow my purpose. And so, and then it was like night and day. It literally like transformed. He literally transformed overnight. It was like in an instant when he finally believed that he could and that he wanted to.
Yeah, yeah. What got you into medicine in the first place? I mean, I know that
Oh,
you had this thing about interested in biology, but biology. I mean, my dad was a zoologist. I mean, he still is. He's a marine biologist, and the reason why he went into it is because
yes.
he couldn't get into medicine. Being Iraqi, you're sort of judged by, if you get into medicine, you've won. If you haven't got into medicine, it's either engineering or you're a loser, or you have lots of money. If you have lots of money, they'll let you off. They'll let you off the hook, but you're still a loser.
Yeah. I think that's the same with Persians.
Really. Yeah, I
It was
mean,
either engineer or medicine. I
yeah,
had to choose.
yeah. Either way, if you don't get into them, you're a loser. But if you have a few $1 million or a few $1 billion, it's okay. We'll let you off the hook.
But no, actually, I'm like your dad. I didn't, not that I didn't get into medical school, but I wanted to be a wildlife biologist. So my main degree was wildlife biology. I wanted to be out in the field, in the mountains, tracking rabbits and conservation and taking care of all the animals. And I still do. My ultimate dream is having a wildlife refuge, but there weren't any jobs, like none. And the only thing that I could do was like, hey, Anna, you need to go and study and become a professor and then teach. And I was like, heck no, like I do not want to become a professor, which is so stupid because I'm an associate professor now. And so I don't know what the heck I was thinking back then. But so no jobs. And I was like, okay, well, I got a job at this children's hospital in Denver doing some epidemiology work. And I kind of liked working with people. And I was like, wow, I really like connecting. And then I got a research coordinator job and worked more with patients. And I loved connecting with them. And there was some kind of magic, I think, there that I didn't understand understand at the time. And I just loved the magic was like just deep healing. And it was just that connection with another human. There was that spark there. And so then I applied to med school and I got in because I was published, and I think I did well on my MCAT score. So I think that's probably how I got in. Otherwise, I'm
Yeah, I
not
mean the
like a super
Persian
smart
brain.
person or anything, but
Yeah, the Persian brain's a very clever brain for sure.
yeah, my Persian genetics get me a one up for sure. So yeah, that's oh, and then one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to also consider medical school was I almost died when I was a teenager. So I had peritonitis from those juices that you bought, those like natural juices, and it had apple juice in it, and I guess the apples fell on cow manure and they
Oh wow.
didn't pasteurize them at the time. And so I got E. coli poisoning. I got appendicitis, but it was missed. So none of the doctors got it. And so it was missed. And I was like, I just lived with the pain for like 3 months. And like, I like lost a whole bunch of weight. And then I went into shock. And so anyway, I had super bad peritonitis, which is super bad infection of your like belly. So like a big abscess inside my intestines and stuff like that. And so I was like
I
super
mean that should have
septic.
put you off medicine,
And,
not attracted to
I
medicine.
no, but then I was like, shit, I could do a better job.
Uh,
I said, shoot, I better do this.
these doctors
So yeah,
are a disaster. These doctors, they don't know what
I
they're
better.
doing.
Then I'm like, I become one of those doctors, I'm sure. But yeah, that was kind of what got me on it. And then I was like, oh my gosh, medicine is really, I mean, there's so many great things about the medicine that we learn. But it's not, man, there's like, it's just a part of medicine. And then we think we're all this like great, we're the greatest medicine in the entire world. And yeah, we're good, but it's just like, it's not the only medicine. And that's the part I don't like about it, is that we're missing the integrative side. We're missing the spiritual side. We're missing the emotional component. And so you can't get your entire medical or healthcare or your healing from the conventional medical system. You just can't. It's impossible, especially for chronic health conditions, at least from my experience with both chronic pain and autoimmune disease. And so that's why I went and got extra certifications and credentialing and training in all these other therapies and modalities to have more of a complete medicine. And I would just love the conventional medical system to really collaborate and bring these other modalities in to have more of a holistic, complete medicine to really, really take care of these patients. I mean, man, we could really heal a lot of people, but unfortunately, that's not the way it's looking right now.
Yeah, I mean it's probably going the other way, with the current situation. I mean it's become politicized now, medicine, whereas before it wasn't. Now you have the whole politic mess within medicine, and it's been weaponized as well. Our profession's been weaponized. Um, so
Exactly.
yeah, and unfortunately, I mean, we're all going to suffer, the patient and the physician, the holistic physician and the traditional mechanistic physician.
Well, I mean, that's the reason why I also quit the hospital, is because I was trying for, especially because I work a lot with people with chronic health conditions, and I wanted to bring in, more of these modalities. Like it's if you've heard of osteopathic musculoskeletal medicine, it's just, how DOs, it's just a different type of physician as a DO learns, gentle manipulation of the biomechanics and the muscles and the skeletal system. And it's 80% of people with pain truly need that. And it's been well studied. And I brought that to my leadership, and they said I would kill people. It's too dangerous. And I even showed them the safety data. I said, there's nobody been killed by this type of medicine. And so, but they shut it down. And they also, I think behind the reason is because insurance doesn't pay that much for it.
Yeah. 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 I mean, you know, that's the bottom line, unfortunately. And you know, it is about monetary profiteering to a certain extent. And you know, with the current social media and you know all these kind of you know artificial realities virtually, you know that's what's celebrated on a continuous basis. So you know maybe that's the reason why younger physicians are not you know taking up the profession, because they can make X amount of money making TikTok videos about their pet, you know, pet hamsters doing somersaults. You know, I mean, I don't know, but you know, the problem's not going to go away. I mean, on a serious note, you know, the problem's not going to go away.
No.
You know, we're all going to have all kinds of horrendous pathologies and diseases. But unfortunately, you'll just be given a pill according to, you know, who pays the best amount of money for both the pharmaceuticals and for the physicians in leadership. So we have, so to speak, sold our souls to the, you know, to the big bucks conglomerate.
Yeah.
Sorry, I mean, you know, I'm sounding like
No, that
a monologue here.
no, that's it. That's I felt like I was selling my soul. And that's I was like, I actually I said that to my husband because we don't have an income, you know, now. But I was like, I just can't. I mean, spiritually speaking, I was like, I feel like I'm selling my soul. And I feel
I
like
mean,
it's
you've paid the price a lot with your health, you know, because that's a
yes,
reflection of
exactly.
your health. You
It
know, there's
is.
only
And
so much chronic pain you can, you know, you can
it
heal
was.
from.
It was a message. The chronic pain, it was like, you need to stop. You need to get on another path. And I was fighting it and fighting it. And then it was like, oh God, yeah, okay. I'm listening and I'm gonna quit. And it's like, but I won't have any money. And it's like, God's like, it's gonna be okay. And I'm like, okay, we'll see.
Yeah.
So that's where I am.
So where's this interest about having, you know, sort of nature welfare retreats and you know, what's the story behind that?
The
Animals
animals
and
and all that, the
yeah.
wildlife. Gosh, I am so connected. I guess to be honest, that's how God has always spoken to me through nature and wildlife. I just get the messages always just spiritually from them. Like, for example, it was okay, yeah, here's an example. This is a weird example. Everyone's going to be like, oh God, we're never gonna, we're not going to listen to this lady ever again. But so my first job was at an academic medical center. It was an adult. I took care of adults doing acupuncture and integrative and functional medicine. And then I was feeling weird. I was feeling depressed. And then on my birthday, I walked out of the clinic and went to my car in the parking lot at the hospital, and a bat was sleeping on my car. And I was like, what the heck? And I was like, I knew this was a message. How can a bat in a hospital parking lot be sleeping right on your car at the time you're going through this, you know, breakdown? And so I went and looked, and I was like, what's the meaning of a bat? And it's about changing and transforming yourself into this new path. And even though it's scary, you need to rebirth yourself and move on to your next step. And it's going to be hard, but this is totally necessary for your spiritual being, for your spiritual health. And so I quit that job because
What
of
happened
that,
to the bat?
right?
Did you
The bat.
sort of shoo
Well,
it away, or
I
did
kind
you
of
try?
had to shoot it. I did have to shoo it away. And
Did it look
guess
annoyed?
what?
Was it annoyed? Was it
No, it
happy?
just it was in the middle of the day.
Yeah, yeah.
And it just left. I don't
About
know.
having a siesta on
About
your roof. Yeah.
okay, but get this. So then I'm here at my other academic medical center I'm working at. This was just 2 months ago. And then I'm struggling, like I'm fighting with God, like, no, I can't quit because I need the money. What am I going to do? I have no finances. Like, I don't even have a job after this, blah, blah, blah. And then I wake up in the morning and I go outside my door and a bat is hanging out outside my door. And I'm like, damn it, God. And so then I'm like, okay. So then that was the weekend. And then I submitted my, resignation letter on Monday because I just know, I mean, it's just God telling me through the nature messages or animal signals. That's crazy. I know everyone thinks this is the craziest thing that I could do, but
I'm going to
that's
give
my
you a
messages.
nickname now. I'm going to give you a nickname. Anna Batwoman.
Yes, I don't. So yeah, the bats mean I have to quit my job. And
Wow.
so that's the signal.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're fascinating. I read this horrible statistic recently that something like 2 million bats have died because of wind turbines
Exactly.
being erected. Which
Yeah,
is
we're just
quite,
killing all the animals. We're killing them all. I mean,
yeah,
they're dying.
for all this thing called net zero and sort of absolute, coswell.
BS. Yeah, it's all BS.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't get me on the climate change stuff. But yeah.
Well, look, a rise in CO2 in the environment is an issue for all of us for sure. But it doesn't mean that wind and solar is the only way of dealing with it.
Yeah.
I think
Uh,
innovation is the most important thing, and just having a proper dialogue rather than this authoritarian coercion of policy. Um, it just doesn't work, and it's like you have a patient, you say, well, actually, I've only got this drug for you, and off you go. I mean, what happens to that patient? Whereas if you show them different possibilities and um, different potentials, um, it just sparks something different in your head, doesn't it? It just gets you thinking. And if you think long enough, then you have these altered states of consciousness, and then you go into this, the weird realm of spirituality. I mean, I was on your podcast, and I probably spoke a lot of drivel, and I couldn't make sense because I mean, it is a kind of, you can't really describe it explicitly. It's more of a participation experience rather than you know an academic proposition. Um,
yeah, it's a feeling. Yeah, we can't
yeah,
study that very well.
yeah. I mean, we can describe it to a certain extent, but really you have to experience it. And I think the message is you've got to go out there and experience, different forms of experiences. And um, back in the day, I think physicians used to be experts in all sorts of things, whether it's philosophy, whether it's religion, theology, poetry, literature. And we've lost that kind of sense of education, you know,
Oh yeah. Oh
complete
yeah.
education.
The education. Yeah. I don't know. It stinks.
I mean, for me, I mean, sorry, I'm talking about myself here. I mean,
Yeah.
when I ended up just being a cataract surgeon technician, it was horrible because all I was doing was taking out cataracts, and I thought to myself, oh, although the act is beneficial for the patient and it transforms their lives exponentially, but I was just kind of, you know, as you said, spiritually dead.
Yeah.
There.
Soul sucking boredom.
And it's not something that I'm super passionate about, and to a certain extent, not so good at, in the sense that I have to really struggle to do a good job. Whereas in certain areas, I don't have to struggle, and I'm still doing a good job. Um,
What's your passion now? I
my
mean, what's your
passion,
biggest?
my passion now is actually having dialogues, just with
Yeah.
interesting people, and just learning from them. And
With the Batwoman.
uh, absolutely, absolutely, for sure. And no, I mean, speaking to patients and just learning from them and just having a dialogue. I've extended it into the podcast because then you can have a nice chat, and learn about other people's work, for your own educational benefit. And I think, education is, and just dialogue. I find dialogue really, really stimulating.
Yeah.
Um,
And we're not doing that as much. Everyone's so busy, we're so disconnected. We're dialoguing on Facebook versus,
yeah,
face
yeah,
to face. It's changed for sure. And I think we do need that connection and that collaboration and that community.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I feel that too.
And we've gone back to politics now. I mean, even political groups are not having dialogues, whereas before, politics in the 60s and 70s, there was a respect for each head of political groups. There was one group honoring the other, and just respecting the other point of view. And that's just gone out the window now. There is no dialogue between opposites, and it's become more polarized, and there's no utility in that, because problems will always arise, new problems, and we can't solve it with the same old thinking, and
Yeah,
the same
it
old.
doesn't work. It doesn't work. I mean, yeah, that polarization, it doesn't work. Again, that the collaboration, the connection, the community works. The synergy, the
And
synergy's
we
there.
saw that with the sort of between the vaxxers and the anti-vaxxers.
Oh yeah.
It was such a massive destruction of society.
Oh
and
yeah.
and,
It
and
totally polarized us, pitted us against one another. This mass psychosis. Yeah, it was like back to Hitler times.
yeah, yeah, and but I think there is a willingness to have a dialogue, and there is a willingness to admit that we don't know the answers, and we can sit together and bang our heads together, and trying to come with some kind of mutual benefit. And you know that's why I do these podcasts, just sort of see what's happening the other side of the pond. I mean, the internet hasn't been great today, but you know it's still worth the effort, and you know um the
We
time.
plug in our modem, our because the rural internet doesn't work at all. So
Ah,
we have to plug it in to the thing.
absolutely. I think, talking about plugging in, being physicians and healthcare providers, we need to plug into all sources of knowledge and wisdom.
Yeah, I agree.
And one shouldn't shy away from the absurd, and the unintelligible, and because I think there is some scope for benefit. Um, so tell us about your podcast.
Yeah, so health is PowHer, the women audience who want to heal themselves from all kinds of health conditions, emotional pain, and empower themselves to heal. Really, I've just been really trying to promote that you can heal yourself. You truly can. And sometimes we have to use some unconventional methods, but and we kind of have to put ourselves on our top priority list. But and the reason why I had a women audience is because, again, just that sisterhood and kind of trying to uplift each other instead of tear each other down, as well as a lot of women's issues, I mean, kind of went underrepresented in medicine, especially with the original research where it was so tough to research women because of, our hormones and our menstrual cycles. They kind of wanted to, get that out of the picture. And so, that's why I really built Health is PowHer. Is, health is number one. I mean, without it, we don't have much. And women's health is a top priority. And I wanted to put that education out there just like you do. And in all these medical modalities that are not, given, the time of day and our, regular clinics. So yeah, Health is PowHer's podcast, and you can find me at healthispowher.com. We just got a beautiful new website where you can find all our services. And we're over on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. And I'm doing some free calls right now too. If you want to learn more about our services. So you can just find that on the website as well. But yeah, thanks for having me. I love being on the podcast. Love talking about all kinds of things.
For sure, for sure. I mean, I'd love to finish on this question. What would you say to the 18-year-old Anna or the 16-year-old Anna? What would you advise her? What would your three top advices be to her, having experienced what you've experienced over the last, I think 5 years or something like that? What would you say to her?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing I would say is quit listening and doing what everyone else wants you to do. Stop trying to impress everyone else because it just tore away my soul. And I felt like that was one of the biggest reasons I got sick. And I feel everything comes from my inner reality and my inner self, my higher self. And when that feels good and right, then everything else kind of falls into place. And so I wish I learned that back then. It took me 25, 30 years to learn that. So I wish I knew that back
I
then.
didn't hear you. I didn't hear what you just
Oh,
said there. Yes, yes.
oh, it fell out. The internet. So it's okay. This is a very powerful message. I'll say it again. I would say I don't determine your worth by what other people think of you. Try not to definitely don't impress other people beside yourself. Do you. I felt that every time I listened to someone else and abdicated my power to someone else, I really got messed up. I got sick, or I was on the wrong path, or I was exhausted. And so I feel like my inner reality, when I'm healthy, when I'm strong and who I am, everything else comes into place. My reality outside of myself just falls into its natural order. And so I think, again, that is my purpose.
That's the first one. And the
That's
other
what I would
two?
say.
The other two.
The other two. The other two, I would probably say, have fun. Make sure I make time to play, because that's a big part of who I am. And when we become doctors, we're constantly studying and working and forget about the play part. And I just, again, lose sight of myself. And so I have to incorporate play. And then the other one is rest. I did not rest. I had to rest, and I have to, because I have to reflect. I have to decompress. I like internalize a lot of emotions throughout the day, especially when taking care of patients. And I had to learn, I need to decompress. I need to release what doesn't serve me, what's not my emotions, or release the emotions that are causing some turmoil in me. And I have to do that every day. And so I wish I learned that back then, instead of carrying it around with me every day, causing illness.
Awesome, awesome, Anna. It's been a great pleasure, and looking forward to staying in touch and doing some more work together.
Yeah. And don't forget to catch Hyder's podcast coming out.
Yeah, 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 for sure, for
You'll see that
sure,
on our podcast.
for sure. Absolutely. Thank you, Anna.